Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen. We are back for game 2 between Team Linkens and Team Anarchy here in the AD2L Season 10 tournament. This is week 4. Game 1 going the way of Team Anarchy as they had picked a bit stronger lineup in terms of its late game potential, having a strong Lone Druid and Medusa able to carry them into the uphill and into what ultimately was a victory for them in game 1. You can see Team Lincoln's responding to that here in game 2 by banning out the lone druid right away. But I am Darmin, coming to you live on twitch.tv/DarminCast. I am joined by Nefarious, joining me from twitch.tv/Nefarious. And it sounds like you have some open mic stuff going on there, Nefarious.
Yes, I'm working on fixing my mic issue, and it is not. I mean, am I at least louder?
Nope, not really. You're just,
Oh, great.
Actually, you know what? You looks like your audio levels are coming across okay here. Give me another quick hello as you talk about this faceless void.
Well, so this void, and it served Anarchy really well last game, and so no surprise to pick it up. And actually, I think a bit of a mistake from Anarchy grabbing the Invoker into the void. I mean, it's not like it's not gonna ruin Invoker. It's not gonna make him a bad hero, but Invoker loses pretty much all of his usefulness when he can't invoke spells. So going to be a rough game for him, I think. And the Juggernaut also a very good hero against the Invoker, so I think this Faceless Void, just both of these teams value the hero very highly, and he's gonna do a lot of work for Linkens.
Yep, and you can see Team Anarchy, having fought into the Witch Doctor in game 1, decide, you know what? That is a powerful hero. I think we'll take that one. So both teams swapping heroes on one another, and you'll have the Faceless Void played by Team Linkens and the Witch Doctor played by Team Anarchy this go around.
Radiant team ban.
So far, I think both drafts are pretty strong, have their weaknesses, but at the same time, I just think Linkens have the better form right now. They have better answers to deal with anything that Anarchy might be able to dish out. So well, it'll have to be. I think they're gonna have to pay very special attention to the off lane. They're gonna have to spend a lot of time trying to shut down this Faceless Void, getting online, prevent him from getting any levels, and just trying to keep him from just snowballing out of control. Or worse, shutting down their Invoker.
Yeah, but the Faceless Void isn't, as we saw in game 1, he's been utilized by these teams much more for his utility rather than any sort of true farm potential. Sure, he was able to do some damage underneath the Chronosphere, but more than anything, those Chronos were just used to set up the Medusa, who would sit outside of it with the split arrows and just kind of rain that damage down upon everyone caught in the Chrono. So the raw damage coming out from Faceless Void isn't as big of a deal as just his ability to get levels. Because ultimately, if he does want to go utility build again, he's going to at the very least be able to farm up an Aghanims, especially if Game 2 goes as long as Game 1, which lasted nearly an hour.
I think Lincoln should just pick Death Prophet like right now. I think it would lane really well against the Invoker, it synergizes with the Void, and then they could draft like really, play really aggressively, play really forward, and do the same thing that like they tried to do last game. Tried to end the game soon, tried to end the game early, but with Prophet ult, it's a lot easier to take objectives.
Yep, and like you said, it synergizes really well with that Chronosphere. You can pop Exorcism, you can pop some of that Life Leech, and just sit around. Instead, they opt to pick up the Outworld Devourer.
I really like this too. He will steal a ton of int during the Chronosphere, probably going to drop an Eclipse after the fact, and having like 5 seconds of uninterrupted auto attacks from him will steal probably at least 20-25 intelligence, and that will be absolutely brutal. But at the same time, this Darkseer has a lot of friends on his team. I mean, the Witch Doctor, the Invoker has tons of AoE. I'm imagining a Vac into a Tornado, Meteor, plus the Deafening Blast. That's going to be scary, but it will require a lot of execution, and Darkseer actually has the second highest win rate in the AD2L at 60%, whereas Juggernaut has 60%. So Darkseer, a very popular hero here and very good. And that's, I mean, the reason he's popular is because he is very good. And OD only recently becoming favorable among these AD2L teams. I saw for a long time him get completely ignored, and actually last draft, unless he was banned, he was mostly ignored.
Yep, so like you said, we're going to have a battle of winning percentage titans here, as it's going to be Juggernaut versus the Darkseer. Likely in that safe lane, you'll likely see Team Anarchy put the Darkseer into that off lane position going into the safe lane Juggernaut, and I'm sure he'll be trying to harass him out of position with those ion shells, and Juggernaut will just have to work his way around those shells and heal up whatever damage he does absorb with his healing ward. What I have seen before, and what wouldn't be a terrible choice here from Team Linkens, is picking up an Omni Knight as one of their support positions, because what you're able to do early on there is actually repel creeps and essentially dispel that ion shell damage coming out from Darkseer, and it hurts him quite a bit early on. But instead they opt to pick up the Disruptor, who's going to be able to synergize pretty well with the Faceless Void and the OD here, as he's going to be able to control the tempo of these team fights by glimpsing heroes back and trapping them in position even after the Chronosphere, complements of that Static Storm and Kinetic Field. So you're definitely looking at Team Linkens trying to work together in a wombo combo fashion and just group up Team Anarchy into one tight area and drop the house on them.
And I actually think the Disruptor is really good for just like two reasons. First, it does synergize great with your Faceless Void and your OD, but it just crushes Darkseer in lane. Like Darkseer like his whole mobility thing is I'm gonna run really fast, and Disruptor glimpses you back and blocks you in. So the Surge is not gonna be particularly useful for him. And so Linken's probably looking for their next support. Anarchy need their one. I think Gyro is still there, so they might as well just get it. It synergizes with the Darkseer, can be alacritied by the Invoker, good with the Venge. So yeah, I think Anarchy should just take the Gyrocopter.
Do you worry about the Gyrocopter not providing much tankiness to a Team Anarchy lineup, who would then be essentially committed to an Invoker initiation? Maybe a Vengeful Spirit swap initiation?
That's true, but at the same time, it's hard to find someone that can tank any kind of damage from an Outworld and a Jugs. So well, at least since Spectre has been taken out, it could go like actually Lifestealer might not be bad, as there is a lot of magic damage on the side of Linkens, and Lifestealer thrives in that kind of environment. But at the same time, it's also he's gonna get Omni'd and just die from the Omni, and the Chronosphere will really hurt him. So I think they need something ranged because of that, and something that can maybe try to kite. But again, Linkens have a very hard lineup to kite against. Maybe Luna would be okay. Kind of similar to the Gyro, but generally gets a little bit tankier, building more beefy items, as opposed to the Gyro, who wants to go for more damage-oriented stuff. But yeah, they are just going to opt for the Gyrocopter instead, whereas Linkens, I think they should grab Dazzle. I think it would be really good with them. Yeah, it's still there. It provides more mid-gamey strength, can save Void inside his Chrono, save your OD. It's just, I think Dazzle would just be really good for them.
I agree.
Dazzle or Oracle, I would like.
I like the Dazzle pickup here as well. You're able to essentially do some of that mini heal bomb. Instead, they opt to pick up the Earthshaker. And again, you're just seeing Team Linkens focus on this wombo combo synergy. If they get everyone caught inside of a Chronosphere, caught inside of the kinetic field, even if they do manage to out-sustain the right-click damage coming out from Outward Devourer and his ultimate, Earthshaker's going to be there to pick up anybody who's left standing with a big Echo Slam at the end.
Yeah, I'm really liking how Linken's draft is looking. The lanes are gonna be real rough for Anarchy, because if I look, so Darkseer, if he's against an aggro try that is Jugs, Disruptor, Earthshaker, that's a really hard lane for him. I mean, Darkseer has a lot of favorable matchups. I mean, it's similar to Void in the sense like he's just gonna surge away, but Darkseer does not have that kind of mobility. I mean, a Void could just jump over the kinetic field, jump over the fissure. Darkseer is just gonna stand there and get Blade Fury'd on and very likely die.
And you really don't have anyone else you can put up into that off lane to make better use of that lane. So I think
The only other option is to run an aggro try of their own.
Yeah.
It's not awful. You have Venge and Witch Doctor, and I mean Gyro just lanes like so well, and in fact that could be their choice, but it'd be actually a pretty close try lane, I think. And I actually would favor Anarchies, but it would risk your Gyro's farm. Just to get your Darkseer a little bit of a better start, and he's a hero that recovers really well in the jungle, so probably not going to worry about it too much.
But like you mentioned, it is going to be tough laning for him here in the beginning. And as we get started here for Game 2, we'll go through introductions. It looks like both teams just looking to get in position to defend one rune. They'll likely let the other one go. On the Invoker, on the Radiant side of the map here, you have Team Anarchy. Vizcore going to be playing the Invoker, playing your Vengeful Spirit. You have, once again, Hollow Ham in the off lane here, playing the Darkseer. You have Merely Mortal, as there are non-stop pings and drawings coming out on the map. Tiny Ant King going to be playing your Witch Doctor here in Game 2. And last but certainly not least, you have Guppy playing the Gyrocopter, jumping across the map here for Team Linkens. We want to go through introductions for us, Nefarious.
Yeah, and on that ever so popular Outworld Devourer is Pixie. This is going to be a very interesting and very important mid matchup, but NYJY playing the Earthshaker, moving from the Earth Spirit, then Thorg, and then something Russian on Disruptor. Syntax playing the Juggernaut, and in the off lane there is Dazzle and I believe, yes, in the off lane, sorry, not Dazzle, Dabbles, not Dazzles.
No Dazzle this game.
Why do I feel like there's only 4 heroes?
I
think I got it.
You called the Earthshaker, MYJY, Syntax. Yeah, I think you got them all.
Syntax, Disruptor, yeah.
Yep, and those of you who have
so important.
Been watching from Game 1 into now, there has been a bit of a roster change here on Team Linkens. They had to have a substitute in Game 1, and Dr. Dread was sitting in for Thorg. Thorg has since made it to the computer and has rejoined his team, and he'll be playing the Disruptor now. So Team Linkens back up to full strength, and we'll see if that makes a difference here for them going into Game 2. You already have some stacks coming out.
I think probably the most...
Go ahead.
I think the most important lane for both teams is probably the mid lane. Because if either of these heroes gets a lead that gets a big snowball advantage, it's going to be really bad for the other team and become really difficult. Like OD is a really well scaling hero, Invoker also scales really well, so I think the supports on both teams need to pay special attention to this, make sure that they at least stay even. They don't want their mid to be falling behind, because whichever one of those heroes starts rotating first, it's going to be a difficult time. But Pixie taking some creep harass and already getting pretty low, forced to use some regen, and thanks to that Quas, Vizcore is going to stay very healthy in this lane. So although Pixie is out CSing Vizcore, it's going to be probably slightly Invoker favored until supports start to rotate there.
Yep, and unfortunately at this point, the Arcane Orb, being 100 mana cost, has pretty much depleted Outward Devourer's mana pool in its entirety already.
I think he also needs a value point in his banish. Just the 4-second duration is too good to pass up.
Yep, but you have a smoke coming out from Team Linkens here, as they rotate in the 2 supports as well as Dabbles from the off lane. So they're committing heavily to this middle lane, as they've rotated in 4 heroes.
This kill fails, it's a disaster for them. Good tornado, but is he gonna get caught? He gets glimpsed back, and now Vizcore will actually go down, so very important that that kill happens. But Dabbles might be in trouble. yeah, if you dedicate that many resources to your first blood, you need it to happen right there. If it didn't, it would have been a huge waste of time for Team Linkens.
Yep. Committing 4 heroes for a first blood is extremely costly, even though they did get it. I mean, you'll see the chart jump down in their favor here to start with, but now it's providing plenty of space for Guppy to just casually right-click down some creeps, and he's not missing a shot here as he's able to get this farm uncontested. Hollow Ham stacking up multiple neutral camps over here, and it looks like he's actually going to be able to pull this creep wave back. So Guppy getting uncontested farm and protection here as Team Anarchy tried to get answer kill in the middle lane here, harassing Pixie down, but MYJY rotating in is going to buy him time and space to heal up with a tango and some bottle charges, so he'll be back to fight and strength here.
Yeah, rotating Void is really expensive and super dangerous. I mean, he did get to take part of that first blood, but they really want that Chronosphere as soon as possible. And delaying it for any reason is, even for first blood, is not entirely worth it, and I really don't think that Dabbles needed to be there.
Yeah, he didn't contribute much. He was able to essentially time walk in, get a couple right clicks in, but it was the Earthshaker's Fissure, the glimpse coming out from the Disruptor, and the right click damage from OD that was really what secured that kill.
So Darkseer having a good time in lane, stealing a stack here. And that's pretty good, but oh, might be in trouble now. The Fissure is going to block him in, but is there anyone in position to stop to get him? And I mean, they have Glimpse coming, but is it going to be there in time? It should be, and he should be getting Glimpse back, and will be going back and will pop. So a good Glimpse, and yeah, this lane not easy for Darkseer to survive in. Disruptor, one of the best heroes in lane against the Darkseer.
Yeah, and it's one of those lanes that you hate to be in. You know you're going to die a few times. You just need to keep your cool and not start to tilt too early on in the game. Just know that you're going to get caught out a few times here. Speaking of getting caught out, Dabbles in the bottom lane is actually going to be eaten, or is actually going to eat a magic missile from Hollow Ham, and that allows Guppy to surge forward, and with a level 3 rocket barrage, he just tears through Faceless Void.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Meanwhile, in the middle lane, Pixie making a rotation to the bot here, and he finds himself a regen rune, but he runs into the 2 supports in the bottom lane. Some big right clicks coming out is going to get him a kill, but he's super low, eating the charges off of his magic wand as he runs back up onto the high ground here. And there's rotations from Team Linkens as they catch the Guppy inside of a kinetic field for now. Then they glimpse him back into the waiting arms of MYJY, who has a Fissure ready for him, but he might be on the wrong side there. And Guppy running for his life here, sitting at 300 health. He does eat Fairy Fire to get him back into fighting shape, and now they look to make a turn of their own, and they fight right into the chasing Outworld Devourer and secure a kill, compliments of the rotating Invoker. So both teams rotating very heavily here early on in the game. Guppy trying to chase down MYJY, who had been cold snap, and they ultimately do get it there. Vizcor getting the kill. Dabbles trying to phase out the chasing Radiant lineup, but he's going to have to backtrack to safety himself as the damage was already done. And so with heavy rotations from both teams, it's actually going to be a 2-for-0 trade favoring Team Anarchy.
It was a really good glimpse, but I think the Fissure was slightly off target. It allowed the Gyro to continue running up like the way he had been going. And just really unfortunate how that ended up working out, but
yeah,
I'm gonna go down, and Dabbles might be in trouble. Is able to jump out.
I think if that Fissure had gotten the Gyrocopter on the other side of the wall, it would have been almost a guaranteed kill for him.
Dire's bottom tower is in turmoil.
So we talked about possibly doing an aggressive tri-lane, and you can see here that with the rotations that have been made by both teams, the laning phase almost doesn't exist here in the game. Everyone's in every lane at all times.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
I'm not sure who this favors. I think both teams are equipped to fight early. They've got good early game carries. They've got good aggressive supports. Their mid laners don't need that much to be online. But the Invoker is level 7, almost 8, has a GD. Pixie could be in serious trouble and just get caught in the tornado. Now gonna get cold snapped in. Yeah, Pixie might just die. But actually, no, able to walk in. But does he really want to fight this? Oh, actually, yeah, he does. And he has Sanity's Eclipse in like 1 second. And the wand will save Pixie. Well, not save him, but just the damage from the Arcane Orb, meaning that he can keep up fighting a DD'd Invoker. That's pretty impressive.
Yep, the cold snap had faded before Invoker was actually able to connect any of those right clicks, so you didn't see any of those mini stuns coming out. And with the intelligence stolen from Outworld Devourer, it just scaled his damage faster than they were able to, or faster than the Invoker was able to match it. And standing toe to toe with a double damage hero at 9 minutes into the game is a dangerous proposition, and OD may be the only hero who's capable of doing that.
He didn't even have Sanity's Eclipse ready. It's just the Arcane Orb damage is so high. I mean, and it's pure damage too, but actually now this Pixie might be in trouble, but able to dodge that. And no Sunstrikes coming out. This is a Quas Wex Invoker, more control-oriented build, that's for sure.
Radiant's top tower is getting walloped.
And we haven't talked much about the top lane.
Did get cleared up for the...
Yep, the bottom stack
pretty...
did get farmed up by the gyrocopter there, but in the top lane you have Syntax just quietly farming away. He hasn't been able to quite keep up with the gyrocopter, who, as I mentioned before, had some free farm time granted to him by Void rotating into the middle lane early, but he's not that far behind, all things considered.
Illusion.
Especially considering Gyro got a stack, a huge stack, but I think this lane, like this top lane happening the way it has been, really favors Linkens. Like, your Juggernaut, completely uncontested, no pressure on him at all. He's not afraid of getting ganked. He's level 8. He's doing really good in levels and actually is the same level as the mid laner on both teams. And OD going to be going a Hand of Midas. That's pretty interesting and not something you see terribly often, but maybe he just wants to snowball.
It does offer him some of that beneficial attack speed, which is going to be good with his Arcane Orb, as well as let him scale in terms of levels. You have a puppy paws here as OD is teleporting to the bottom lane, and it was MYJY on the side of Team Linkens who disconnected. So we may see a fight break out here as Dabbles is very far forward in this bottom lane, looking like he's trying to get in position for a Chronosphere. And Team Anarchy are split up. Oh teams.
Playful banter coming out from both teams.
Yes.
Yeah. Just playful, fun times.
Playful fun times.
But
what can you do during a Dota 2 pause?
What won't be very fun is if Dabble gets a Chronosphere on the Witch Doctor and the Vengeful Spirit will find themselves very dead very quickly thereafter, I imagine. But he's gonna have to choose. Do they want the 2 kills on the Tiny Ant King and Hollow Ham or Guppy? Because he's definitely not gonna be able to get all 3. No way.
And that's what I was going to ask you. If you are Faceless Void here, where do you turn? Do you turn left to pick off the 2 supports, or do you turn right to pick off the hard carry in the form of Gyrocopter?
I think you pick off Guppy, because this is just, like, what my thought, like, I'm imagining the Vengeful Spirit and the Witch Doctor will be like, oh, they chronoed our carry, we need to stick around, we need to help him, and maybe they get a return call off that. I mean, maybe they just abandon him, which is the correct choice, is to probably just abandon him. You don't have swap, you're far away from your tower, and you don't know who's TPing in, so just abandon Gyro if he gets chronoed. But Gyro, if I were Gyro and I saw my supports get chronoed, I'd be like, alright, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not gonna deal with this. Because you can't die. You really can't afford to die. He needs to keep alive, keep his farm going. Whereas the supports, if they die, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it gives some gold to Team Linkens, but I would much rather, like, I think he should ult the gyro, because the supports will try to stick around, Venge will definitely throw out a magic missile, and Tiny Ant King will try to throw a cask. But with the kinetic field and the glimpse ready, at least one of those other heroes will probably die outside the chrono.
Well,
So
here's the
I
thing
think get the
that
gyro.
they don't know is if you take a look at their vision, and that'd be the F2 key for those of you new to casting and spectating, you can see that the OD is teleporting inside of the fog of war in that middle lane, so they don't know that he's rotating, and they can't see the teleport mechanic in the bottom lane here. So all they see is the faceless void and the now disconnected Earthshaker. What they don't realize is on its way is they have Thorg waiting in the flanks here on his Disruptor, Glimpse ready, Kinetic Field ready, and they have a rotating Outworld Devourer. So if Dabbles does jump to the left here, he's going to be able to lock down the two supports, and that's going to buy time for MY, JY, and Thorg to run forward and catch out Guppy, who doesn't have teleport scroll on him right now. So if you secure that pathing to the side shop, you're going to be able to lock him in position in the lane, and worst case scenario, he'll get away for a little bit and eventually be glimpsed back by the Disruptor. So I think it's definitely possible for Team Linkens to secure all 3 kills here if they're able to execute well across the board. Of course, Invoker does have a TP scroll of his own, as does the Darkseer. Darkseer is currently level 7, but hasn't put any points into his wall yet. So he'll have to teleport down, surge forward, and count on just vacuum and some ion shell damage being enough to keep Team Linkens at bay. And we'll see. Both teams have proven that they're more than willing to commit heavy rotations to lanes for a kill or a defense. So we'll see how heavily Team Anarchy choose to respond to what's clearly going to be the initiation from Team Linkens. Unless, of course, they look at all this and go, you know what? We tried to make this happen, but due to the unfortunate pause, we should just cancel it. OD cancels his teleport, stays in mid lane, and they just call the whole gank off.
Yeah, and it's actually not it's not a risk-free thing for them to do this either. There is call down ready, so that's a lot of damage, and if they don't kill both the supports, there's a lot of control and a lot of burst. So there is the potential to lose heroes, so it will require a lot of good execution. And it could be a little worrisome. Maybe they don't want to risk that, but they are already TPing in their OD. I wonder if he's being spotted out. No, he's not. They have no idea he's TPing either place, so going to be a very if they get these 3 kills, it's really good for Team Linkens. It'll bring the gold advantage back in their favor and maybe finally pass like the 500 gold mark for the first time this game in favor of either team. But it's still dangerous. I mean, Gyrocopter does a lot of damage. I mean, they call him the balanced helicopter man for a reason.
I don't know who calls him that, but I agree. Completely balanced. And actually, they've been working on Gyrocopter to make him more of a balanced hero. They've nerfed some of his early rocket barrage damage. I don't know if you remember, what was it, 683, I believe it was, where a level 1 rocket barrage would kill just about anybody in the game, and with just one of the cast.
That
So
was dark times.
you would just run alongside him, hit that Q button, and go, oh, thanks for first blood. GG's. And they've also nerfed some of the damage coming out from call down.
Yes, call down is probably... It's hard to balance him though, because he's one of those heroes. I think he's not broken right now. I actually think he's pretty fine in terms of balance, and he's actually been kind of slowly fading away. And in fact, it's Morphling who's really coming back now. Like, Morphling is the hero who's gained a lot of popularity, and Terrorblade. But the Gyro, still a very safe pick. Kind of the same story as Tusk. They're just safe. And, I mean, Call Down's still a good spell. Has been nerfed a lot. And I think the biggest nerf, and definitely the most required one, is that Call Down used to pierce BKB in terms of the slow. And that was bad.
Yeah, that was bad. With changes like that, you always wonder, as it's happening, you're like, well, now this hero is going to be worthless. But as you play through it and you get more used to it, you get to the position we're in today, where you look at it and you go, how did that ever pierce BKB? That was ludicrous.
Exactly. Exactly, and like a lot of heroes get these small changes that suddenly they're really strong, and I mean, obviously Faceless and OD and Invoker did not get small changes, but I mean they all got reworked, and Invoker starting with Invoke at level 1 I think is probably what brought him into viability.
Yeah. And I think it makes sense. They may want to continue to tweak some of his early damage potential, and in the latest patch 685C, I believe it was, they have modified some of his base agility, dropping it from what I believe was 22 to a base 14 agility. So some of those exort build invokers don't have quite the same right click potential they do at the very early phases of the game, which I feel is a good change for him. It brings him back into balance. And of course, we've seen other heroes like Lesharok who have been given buffs to make them more viable, and then as soon as he becomes viable and he becomes an early pick ban type hero, he immediately gets hit by a nerf and is dropped in favorability in its entirety. Now both teams are back into the game and at full strength, so we're going to have an unpause here, and Dabble's committing the Chronosphere to the middle of the lineup here, and Guppy walking forward, utilizing his call down to try to phase or zone out Team Linkens. And so far, like you said, it's not a completely safe proposition for Team Linkens to commit this, and they lose Faceless Void for it.
Didn't buy a TP.
Yep, so he is going to be caught out, but not before taking out MYJY.
So, oh, and Disruptor dying too. So this, well, looks like a good setup for a gank turns into a complete disaster, losing 3 of their heroes, their Faceless Void, their Earthshaker, and their Disruptor all going down. So that's why I think that the call down was another big part of the reason I really think he should have chronoed the Pharaoh. And I also think he was a little ahead of himself, because his teammate OD was still TPing in and his team was all way back here. So they had a long way to walk before they could get there, but OD finishing his Midas. I'll be able to help him keep up with this Invoker, and Invoker going for an Urn, so we're gonna see the Alacrity and then earn them kind of build. So Alacrity Urn Cold Snap is a very cheeky, very annoying combo, and Bizcore going to barely survive. Will they be able to find him? Actually, they might. No, he's going back, but no, they aren't able to find him in the end. But a very good attempt.
Yep, and
We
Pixie.
almost level 6. That's going to be very important.
Yep, Pixie had rotated to that bottom rune, and he once again finds himself the beneficiary of a regen rune. So that's at least twice, maybe even 3 times, he's run into regen runes at very opportune times. The first one he utilized to get himself a kill against the Witch Doctor, and in that one he had about 100 HP left, as well as an empty bottle. And he picks up a regen rune, so he's back to just sitting in lane, farming up. So saving himself quite a bit of travel time across the map.
Game's still very even, but we'll see how long that lasts. All it takes is one good fight from either team, and they can build a pretty significant lead. Both teams are okay at Roshan. TA have the Venge, and Linkens have the Jugs. So both teams have plenty of ways to kill like a Roshan fairly quickly.
Both teams committing wards down into that area, of course, to make sure that they keep vision up on just such a possibility. And now in the bottom lane here, you have another Vengeful Spirit Magic Missile into Guppy's Rocket Barrage. Dabble's time walking towards the enemy lines here in order to avoid the call down damage, and he's going to pull some advanced maneuvers here to time walk himself into the jungle and make his way back out to safety after quite a bit of chase. They do lose the tier 1 tower there, but very well played by Dabbles, as he was able to avoid lethal damage there.
A good Chronosphere, able to get out a call down and then able to jump into the tree so he doesn't die to flat cannon.
Dire's bottom tower is in turmoil.
But man, this bot tower taking a lot of heat.
Yeah, and that's going to be the second tower. I don't think they can afford to glyph this, but they opt to do it with 90 health left.
They do. I guess they want to deny it. Or I hope. But if this catapult gets one more auto attack, they go down. Yeah, they do deny it, so it's okay. And they still have that T1. I guess your thought is, okay, they're gonna kill top T1 too. We'll have glyph soon. But that's huge. I mean, Dire losing their bot T2 is massive because they lose the Roche advantage all of a sudden. Suddenly you can't just TP in and be able to take a fight at Roche at any time you want. Now it's like, oh, we actually have to walk there.
Yeah, your nearest TP location is going to be that tier 2 in the middle tower.
So far, Anarchy playing very well.
Yeah.
2-0 and 4. This Juggernaut 2-0. So neither of these carries has died yet, but Invoker probably having a little bit of a better game than Outworld. Actually, that's not true, but he is out farming Outworld a tiny bit. Good death ward. And Vizcore will barely survive, and a good vacuum back into that. So an amazing death ward from Tiny Ant King. And are they going to be able to get any returns on this?
They're going to get there first.
Go down, so at least they get Guppy, but Pixie will very likely... Oh, but there's a Chrono here too, and nice trapping Vizcore inside the Static Storm, and he will go down, but unfortunately the Urn will be enough damage to kill. Oh, Vizcore barely able to survive thanks to his Urn. Wow, that's very impressive. So unfortunately, it looks like a great Chrono that could have been 2 more kills turns into not any more kills. Just very unfortunate. And they lose the OD.
And with the changes to Faceless Void, and you can see all he has to his name right now is a Poor Man's Shield and a Morbid Mask. So he doesn't have a ton of right-click damage behind his punches there. So he is able to catch 2 heroes in his Chrono, but it's a utility skill right now. Not necessarily one to grant those kills.
Not any solo kill potential. Yeah, he's very limited kill potential.
But you can see Team Anarchy here playing aggressively. They took that big team fight in the bottom lane that was set up after the first pause of the game, and they still committed to it on the side of Team Linkens, but lost 3 heroes and then 2 towers off the back of that. And immediately after that fight, you saw multiple Team Anarchy heroes rotate to the top lane, push down the tier 1 tower, and push towards that tier 2 tower. Getting some love from the Darkseer, worried about our sanity, but of course, being casters, I can speak for myself, if nothing else, we're definitely used to pauses.
Yeah, I cast the game a couple days, I think it was yesterday, last night, there was an extremely long pause, 2 or 3 times throughout the game, and I found a way to keep going, so... I am used to it, and I'll survive, I'm sure.
Yep. Unfortunately for us, these teams are a bunch of poor folks, and they don't have any cool effigies for us to talk about. Looks like both teams only have 1 or 2 effigies. You have Thorg's Enigma up here, and MYJY's Kunkka on the Dire side of the map. On the Radiant side, you have just Guppy's Tiny and Vixor's PA. These other... Oh, I take that back. There's one more here. Merely Mortal has his Broodmother effigy. The rest of you guys need to get on it here. Help us out during these pauses so we can show people your cool effigies.
Or at least have cute couriers to talk about.
Yeah. That's one thing we haven't talked about in either game.
Old school.
You have the Bounty Hunter courier.
Yeah, I mean, usually we don't need to.
On the Radiant.
I love that courier. I also have that courier. I got the Devourling a couple days ago and it made my day.
Yeah, I'm rocking the Devourling here myself.
Mask of Madness.
I'm in the middle lane here.
Mask of Madness and a team fight breaking out in mid. Thor going to go down. A good swap from Venge, bringing him back into the fight. And before the before the Disruptor going down, they did lose Shaker too. So this call down and Gyrocopter playing so well. He has Yasha completed now, so pretty well timed Yasha. 17 minutes on top of his drums.
Yep, and you can see this continued aggression from Team Anarchy as they group up as 5 in this middle lane and plant some aggressive wards and take a couple kills and push towards that tier 2 tower. I'm going to give a shout out here to one of the latest followers to the Darmin Cast channel. Thank you very much, Slats Gordon. Appreciate it as always. In the bottom lane here towards the bottom rune, you have Guppy being chased down by the Juggernaut as he's glimpsed back into a possible spin, but Syntax calling it off here as the Fissure is going to zone out the remainder of Team Anarchy, and a call down for good measure here as my mouse goes a little bit crazy. But now that the wall has dissipated, Hollow Ham swapping out the Disruptor is going to get caught in a Chronosphere along with Vixter, who's trying to make his way out of the kinetic field, and he's able to do so, but not for long as MYJY catches him with the tail end of the fissure there, and they're able to kill him before he envisages his way to safety.
Yeah, that just Revenge trying to get a good swap in. I mean, showing off the power of the Aether Lens, but unfortunately, not the most opportune time. Just get Chronosphered pretty much immediately after the swap happens, and Disruptor able to get to safety while OD happily plunks away at your teammates trapped inside the Chronosphere. And now a banish on the Darkseer. He only has the 1 point in Surge, so it has since ended, and Merely Mortal trying to TP out, should be able to make it to safety. No, an awesome fissure from MYJY, and that's another kill for Pixie. His 4-staff now completed.
MYJY
stolen too, so hitting
just
extremely high.
Yep, MYJY just making things happen across the map there. He was able to help assist in that bottom team fight with the big fissure, rotated all the way to the top lane, pretty much sprinted there to land another good fissure, and now he's made his way to the middle lane where he lands an Echo Slam against multiple TA heroes. Disruptor trying to walk forward here to get the killing blow on Tiny Ant King, and he's going to be able to drop him to just 40 HP, so not enough for the killing blow, and by overcommitting he actually gets himself killed, and Guppy secures a double kill for himself as he also kills off the Faceless Void, who had dove behind the tier 1 tower there.
Looking to find the Witch Doctor and the Invoker, who were both very, very low, but fortunately without Chronosphere, and I mean deafening, and going up against Invoker who has so much control, just very hard to do, so very unfortunate how that turned out for him.
Where's my pension?
Yep, MYJY being a nuisance across the map. As we were saying there, he had a kill in the bottom lane, a kill in the top lane, then he rotated middle and threw out a big Echo Slam, almost getting a couple more kills. But Guppy being equally mobile and showing up at a lot of these team fights. Call Down has very low cooldown for an ultimate ability, sitting on just 50 seconds right now at level 2, so he's able to throw it out pretty casually at every team fight and not have to worry about whether or not it'll be up or not in his next encounter.
That's one thing that TA's draft has a pretty big advantage over Team Linkens, because Linkens are like, OD's ult is on a really long cooldown, Echo Slam on a pretty long cooldown, and Static Storm on a kind of long cooldown, Chrono on a fairly long cooldown at level 1 as well. But Team Anarchy have very, very short cooldowns. They're able to take fights at a much greater rate. So there's a lot of different, basically more uptime for Team Anarchy. Team Linkens need to wait for cooldowns, especially they need either the Void ult or the Earthshaker ult before they really fight, I think. Like at least one of those has to be ready.
Yeah, and you saw how long ago that Echo Slam in the middle lane was, and it's still coming off cooldown now. Whereas the rest of the ults are ready to go as they push into the tier 1 tower top here.
I think this Mask of Madness was the wrong choice for Dabbles. I think it's obsolete for a reason. Void without backtrack doesn't dodge anything, so he takes a lot of damage. Might want to avoid it, but getting a 4-man Chronosphere, they're going to be able to maximize on this, but Darkseer doing a good job. Good Static Storm, Biscore trapped, awesome Echo Slam, and things looking pretty bad right now. Time dilation, keeping Biscore from casting any new spells. A good wall, and Dabbles will go down, but Pixie doing some damage, but also getting low, tanking up tower, might go down too, no banish for himself, so although it was a 4-for-2 trade, they did lose OD and they did lose Faceless Void, but still, great Chronosphere coming out from Dabbles and making up for what might be a poor choice in his build, but just good synergy from Team Linkens, maximizing on that Chronosphere.
Yep, and that's exactly what we were talking about during the draft. You had the Faceless Void jump in, he chronoed 4 heroes. On the back of that, you had a big Echo Slam, you had OD drop in his ultimate in the form of Sandy's Eclipse, as well as getting a bunch of those right-click spells off, and then Disruptor finishing all of that up with a Kinetic Field and Static Storm. So you could see just the panicked look in TA's faces and in TA's heroes as they try to escape that madness, that AoE madness that Team Linkens had brought to that relatively narrow path coming between the river and the top tier 1 tower.
Although T1 did not end up falling, so not a complete loss for Team Anarchy, but Blink Dagger now finished on this Earthshaker, going to be a lot easier to find these huge Echo Slams and another way for them to start the fight, even if the Void does get picked off or not able to find a good Chronosphere.
And I didn't see Juggernaut there in the top lane at all, so I think it was more of a 4 versus 5 fight, and Juggernaut is going to get spotted out here by the Invoker, but he just spins to win himself home after picking off the Ancient Creeps.
Some good game sense, knowing that something must be up, and now Dabble is very likely going to go down. And a great vacuum into that call down, and instead 2 heroes going to go down. A poorly placed Static Storm, probably not exactly where he wanted it to go.
I think that was a bit of a panic as he had gotten
down for a while.
Yeah, he had got caught out by the vacuum into the call down, and he was just trying to get off all of his spells before he fell, in case his team looked to turn the tides of the fight. Unfortunately, it was just kind of a 2-for-0 feed there, as Team Anarchy now look to go into the Roche pit, tossing the Wave of Terror onto the Roshan and throwing Alacrity onto Guppy here, who does not yet have lifesteal. He does have a Morbid Mask in his inventory. But Team Linkens are going to spot this attempt out as they head downhill. And they start off by going on the Witch Doctor, but call down's committed by the Gyrocopter, is going to zone Team Linkens back onto the high ground for now. But knowing that the Gyrocopter ult is down, I suspect they'll look to re-engage, and that's exactly what they do. MYJY committing a fissure here to Tiny Ant King, who gets glimpsed back to the dire high ground, and inside of the kinetic field from Disruptor. Unfortunately, there is yet another pause of the game, as this time it is the Juggernaut who is in the middle of the fight here, but unfortunately has disconnected from the game. You can feel the sense of frustration building across both teams here.
Does not look good for Team Linkens. Like this is not a good place to fight. Like, look where they're all standing, and look where Darkseer is. That's really bad. Invoker also in a good position to like combo in with the Darkseer, can invoke a new spell. So this is gonna be pretty gross.
And Disruptor does not have his ult.
And then do it, so. So Team Linkens actually making the best from a bad situation and gonna be able to find several kills off of this. And although they did lose their OD and they did lose their Earthshaker, Syntax maledicted up, but the maledict will end and they're just gonna back off from that.
And it's a 2-for-2 trade there as the 2 supports on Team Anarchy fall, and the 1 support in the mid lane hero on Team Linkens fall. Now it's Guppy trying to 1v1 Roshan. And without lifesteal, I don't think he's going to be able to do it, but Vizcor rotating in, he'll likely tank it up from here. And now they should be able to finish him off without any issues.
Yeah, so that was a good fight, and the Darkseer wall was in such a good spot. Like, it would be so hard to go back in or to retreat if you're Team Linkens with the wall where it was. So it was just awkward positioning and really good play from Merely Mortal. I mean, they didn't like dominate the fight or anything, but it was still a really good fight for them.
Unfortunately, it's another one of those fights that was interrupted mid-fight by unfortunate pause. So Dota 2 definitely used to getting pauses throughout the game. Unfortunately, with this specific game, a few of those pauses have come just as fights have broken out, making the dynamic of the fight change quite a bit as teams recalibrate and they have those extra seconds that you're not used to having in the heat of the moment to reprioritize what you're going to do and how you're going to react to everything that's going on at once.
What do you think this OD's item is going to be? Is it going to be a Scythe? Is it going to be a Shiva's? Maybe an Octarine Core? I mean, he's sitting on 2k and a Mystic Staff. But it actually looks like they want to take a fight up top.
Yeah, and they open it up with a big Echo Slam into a Chronosphere.
Massive Chronosphere, too.
Yep, they are able to get the Tornado EMP off, and now Omni Knight, not Omni Knight, excuse me, Omni Slash is committed by the Juggernaut, who's chasing down Guppy here, who does not have the Aegis. And he's going to get glimpsed back, sitting on just 300 HP. Pixie's going to right-click him down for the final kill there. Disruptor ultimately falls here, but it's Pixie and Syntax holding up strong and finishing off the remainder of the team as they drop Invoker and then Vengeful Spirit. So Syntax and Pixie being the last two standing in a big 5 versus 5 clash in the top lane here. And that is definitely going to favor them. As you can see, the gold change here, nearly 4k in advantage of Team Linkens, as well as about 4k in terms of XP as well. Massive damage being dealt by both teams. Pixie near death at the end of that fight, but Syntax was left pretty much unchecked through the entire duration of that fight, and he'll be able to finish off his Manta off the back of that fight. And now whatever Outworld Devourer was committed to buying, he'll definitely have enough gold to do so, and you can see it coming in here on the form of the Courier, and it is going to be a Scythe of Ice.
That's going to be devastating for this Invoker and the Gyro. Neither has a BKB and neither has really started one. Gyro, they're both not terribly... Oh, actually, Invoker is going for an Ag, so he won't have a BKB for a very long time. Gyro maybe going one as his next item. He's sitting on almost 2k gold, so it's very feasible that that will be his next item. But this Invoker going to be in a world of hurt now.
BKBs are one of those items that are super strong at pretty much all phases of the game. It prevents just a ton of disable, a ton of different mechanics here. Vixor being the recipient of that first Hex there, as he's able to catch Pixie out neutraling, but because of that Scythe of Ice being online, he's able to Hex up the Invoker and retreat back to the Fog of War. And Invoker, knowing not to chase into the shadows, calls off his gank.
Yeah, and that's just, it was good timing that the Scythe happened, because otherwise Pixie would have definitely died. He still has 2k gold even after finishing the full Scythe, so gonna be pretty intimidating to see what he goes next. He sells his bottle, and I wonder, maybe, I mean, some of them like Ags, but I do not think the Ags is really that good.
Nope, I don't suspect we'll see the Ags here. I'm guessing we'll see him go with a Shiva's next. It'll be helpful to...
Even a BKB would not be a bad choice.
BKB would not be a bad choice, and there's a lot of damage coming out from TA that's right-click based. And you can see him picking up the Mystic Staff there, so I suspect that is going to be a Shiva's. That extra armor is going to help him.
It's an Octarine Core, but I doubt it's an Octarine.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, I do believe you do get healed from the Arcane Orb effect when you have an Octarine Core, so that will be pretty good, but at the same time, I think the Shivas would be better. Slow the attack speed of the Gyro, the active is more magic damage.
And you get that armor out of it, which does not hurt.
The armor will help a lot.
Armor, one of the quiet heroes of the game here, as Vixor spots MYJY coming up onto the high ground here, but Pixie, hanging out in the shadows, is going to hit him with yet another Hex. And what looked like a gank by Invoker turned into a gank on Invoker, as he's ultimately surrounded by heroes
Invoker
there.
Needs a BKB. He absolutely needs to get a BKB as his next item. Because otherwise that's going to happen every fight. Like, he dies in like 4 hits. Yeah, 4 hits, because he's still 20 int, and Pixie was really the only hero attacking Vizcore that whole time. So, yeah, this OD hitting very, very hard, probably for about 400, 500 damage a hit. So, BKB mandatory item on, and Gyro has picked one up, but mandatory on this Invoker. Otherwise, he's just going to get ripped to shreds.
And this gyrocopter teleporting to the bottom tier 1 tower on his side, so he'll run into the side shop, pick up another scroll, but it's not going to be ready for a minute here, which gives Team Linkens plenty of time to melt through at least this tier 2 tower, and if they want to, even go high ground here early on. For now, they put Dabbles up front to block out the creep wave, and looks like so far they are committed to pushing this lane. But now they're backing up, so...
I don't think they want to high ground until like Roche is up or something. It's gonna be a while for Roche, but going high ground without the Aegis, unless they get a really, really good Chronosphere, would be pretty dangerous.
But as it was, and maybe they just didn't realize it, the gyrocopter wasn't there. Instead, what they do find as a consolation prize is multiple stacks of ancient creeps that were originally stacked up for the gyrocopter, but it's going to be Syntax who's the beneficiary of them here. And a Tornado EMP is going to drop Faceless Void before he's able to get his Chronosphere off. And MYJY blinking forward, utilizing that Blink Dagger at his, is going to land a big Echo Slam and turn the tides of the fight here. They were able to catch the Faceless Void, but as Guppy tries to make his escape, he gets glimpsed back by the Disruptor. And now the right clicks coming out from Syntax aren't going to kill him before Gyrocopter lands one more killing blow on the Earthshaker as he's ultimately brought down. So a 3 for 5 trade
really
in the high ground.
That was just great play from Pixie, I think. I mean, he walked into the back, killing Witch Doctor and Venge before they were even able to contribute anything to that fight. And Invoker, too, got ripped to pieces. So, I mean, good play from Guppy, too, making sure that he does find some kills. It wasn't like a free fight, but it's still a fight that they lost. And Syntax getting more and more ahead, going for probably a Scotty next. I'd rather see like a Basher, but just for more control and a little bit more burst damage. But the Scotty provides some really good control. The slow is good and a lot of beef, so that's probably what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
Knowing that OD dishes out more than enough damage.
Yeah, you have plenty of damage on your side of the map so far in the form of both the Echo Slam on Earthshaker, OD's right click potential, and with the Scotty, you're not necessarily completely sacrificing your damage. He's already built up his Battle Fury and his Manta style, so just supplementing some of his raw damage with some defensive measures in the form of tanking up a little bit. And both teams settling down here as we pass the half-hour mark, sitting at 34 minutes. Taking a quick look across the board here in terms of items. You have Vizcore sitting on top of an Ags, a Orchid, the Urn from the beginning of the game, Hollow Ham having finished off his Ether Lens, built back into Vladimir's offering, and the Arcane Boots. Looks like this bottom tower might fall here just to creeps as Team Anarchy have smoked up and they're on the hunt for a possible gank here. They may find Dabbles as he farms up some ancients.
Dabbles.
And he jumps through the woods.
Good jump, but might still get caught.
And gets a lucky bash onto Darkseer, who had blinked forward, and then he Chronosphered against 3. And I agree, he should not have gone in. But he's just kind of kiting this team around, buying time for the rest of his team to show up. And as you mentioned, Earthshaker jumping in with a big Echo Slam as the rest of his team has rotated into the bottom lane here. And now the massive damage coming out from Pixie right click as he gets an ultra kill, dropping Witch Doctor, Invoker, and then Vengeful Spirit. Just 1, 2, and 3 clicks each, and they just fall. So Faceless Void buying a ton of time there as he jumped through the neutral camp, committed the Chronosphere just to lock down 3 enemies. He didn't have any damage to follow it up at the time, but then jumping back into the Chronosphere and back into the neutrals, he was able to kite Team Anarchy around long enough for the Earthshaker to show up, initiate with his Echo Slam, and stall out Team Anarchy long enough for the true damage dealers to show up, Syntax and Pixie, who have now rotated into the bottom lane, push the tier 1 tower, and this will be an easy tier 2 tower for them as well, as they just take big chunks out of this tower.
Radiant's bottom tower has
Pixie
been
playing
defeated.
so well and just showing off why Outworld has risen to become one of the premier picks and actually in a lot of the high-level competitive play, just replacing Invoker. Like teams will just ignore Invoker and ban out the OD first, and like they just don't fear the Invoker as much as they fear the OD these days, and we can see why. I mean, he's crushing everyone, killing your tankiest heroes in just a couple right clicks.
Invisibility.
And now
Once
he's
that BKB starts coming down on Gyro,
and now he's going to be even more unkillable as he sells off his magic wand in favor of finishing a BKB. You can see Sunstrike spotting out the Roshan, who has respawned, and Team Linken's positioning like they want to take this. But first, they're going to gather up for a smoke here and next to their secret shop, by the looks of things, and presumably try to get a pick off. I think that's what they're doing.
keeping eyes on the Roshan. That's the right play, but oh, Tiny Ant King might be in trouble. No, he's okay. Both teams picking around Roche because this is the Aegis will be a big boon to either team, but it's like Team Linken's gonna smoke up into it, and or they either smoke up into it or they're gonna wrap around and gank.
Dire's top tower is not.
Echo Slam ready. Looks like they just went the Roche, but Invoker's Sunstrike will be cooling down very soon, although he does not have it. So I don't know if Team Anarchy knows it's happening, but now they definitely do. But it's gonna be too late. Roshan dying very, very quickly. Good tornado to slow down the push, but and nice attempt at the back up to the cliff, but it's not gonna do anything. A whiff OD ult, glimpse back on Guppy, so Guppy trapped, but an awesome swap bringing him back, but actually putting him right inside an Echo Slam. So, and then a really good Omni Slash to kill two heroes, and that's a 4-man wipe. And Witch Doctor, Tiny Ant King able to TP to safety, and another huge fight for Team Linkens. So that's a 4.8k gold swing in their favor, and now they may choose to push up high ground with this, knowing they have Aegis, that they can force buybacks. They don't have Chrono, but forcing buybacks would be something I'm sure they'd be like totally happy doing.
Yeah, and right now the only buybacks that are still on the table are from the Darkseer and the Gyrocopter. So if you can get 2 of the enemy cores to buy back, that's even more of a blessing. So they take this middle tier 2 tower, they take the big team fight, they take Roche, and now they are going to threaten uphill. The first buyback coming out from Darkseer. Let's see if the Gyrocopter commits one. Right now they know they can take this fight against just 2.
The thing is, if Gyro, I think Gyro just wants to wait it out. He knows his Invoker's back soon, and it looks like Team Linken's just gonna back off after getting that T3, and I think that was the right call.
Yep, they knew they could fight 2.
Play. They might be able to win a fight, but
Yeah, they knew they could fight 2 in the form of Darkseer and the Witch Doctor, but as soon as the VS and the Invoker respawned, then it became a 5 versus 4 fight versus a 5 versus 2 fight, and they decide, hey, let's play it safe. We're ahead. Let's stay ahead. We took multiple towers. We took a big team fight. Taking a look at the net worth chart here, you can see the massive swing was about 3-4k in favor of Team Anarchy, but has dropped after multiple team fights, multiple towers here, to a 15k net worth advantage in favor of Team Linkens, who are hoping to make this best of 2 series 1-1.
So it's looking really grim. I think Team Lincoln seriously outscale Team Anarchy. Like the Gyrocopter and Juggernaut scale to mid. Like it's not even the Gyro and the Jugs that I'm thinking about. It's just this OD is a monster, and he's only gonna get bigger. And that's a weird item pickup on Jugs. I would much rather have seen a Basher or like an MKB over an Ags, but I guess maybe he puts a lot of stake in the ult. And Viscor could be in trouble, but the Death Ward placed in the wrong spot.
And he's going to be 3 shot. It looks like he gets the 4th one off there. And he lives through 3 shots, but ultimately dies to the 4th. Pixie rotating over to the Invoker, throwing 2 right clicks his way, and gets the killing blow there as well. You mentioned that the Outworld Devourer is going to be the one to worry about scaling, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. He's really, really dangerous right now, but looking at his itemization, he doesn't have much room to expand. He's going to sell off this Hand of Midas in favor of a Refresher Orb, but beyond that, the only thing he'll be able to upgrade is his Power Treads into what I presume is going to be Boots of Travel, which isn't going to help his damage output necessarily. And after that, I think he's going to be pretty much 6-slotted unless he opts to get rid of the Force Staff in favor of something like an Octarine Core or a bigger item like that. But
a Moon Shard would actually be really good on him too.
Yep.
Unlike a lot of mids, Moon Shard is a super good item on OD. So I think the Refresher is kind of a mistake. I'd rather just see him go the Octarine like right now. Because the cooldown on the ult, the cooldown on Banish, I think he would actually get healed from the Arcane Orb. It's just going to take so long for these heroes to catch up to his damage output. He's hitting with his orb for like almost 500 a hit, and 200 of that is pure damage. And I mean, once the BKB comes out on Invoker, and he is going for it, it will help. But Gyro's BKB is starting to time down.
And you can see here, Outworld Devourer has for a long time just kept that Arcane Orb on autocast. He's not worried about the regen mechanics of it at all. As he and Syntax head uphill here, Juggernaut leading the charge, having tanked up a bit with the Eye of Scotty and also sitting on the Aegis. He's just going to chase down TA heroes as Pixie and the rest of his squad hang out in the backgrounds and finish off the racks here. So he's going to be able to drop this. He eats a solo vacuum himself, but right clicks down the remaining racks in the middle lane, and he just falls back to the safety of his team. And now I suspect they'll just regroup and push into another lane.
That's definitely the next option. They're just going to rotate. It looks like bot lane, but Void running back, maybe trying to grab an item. Aegis has been reclaimed though, so that's something you got to think about. Pressure Orb now on the Outworld. I don't know if I like it that much. I guess the double ult could be okay though. Like, it sounds like it might be pretty good. I mean, he has a ton of int.
He has a ton of int, and it's going to be a huge damage surge at this point in the game. Like you said,
his Vengeful Spirit will probably die almost just to that. Because
yeah,
he has almost 100 more than 100. He almost has, yeah, I think Avenged is almost in one-shot territory of the Sanity's Eclipse. The int difference is pretty significant, and it does 10 times the intelligence difference.
Yep, he'll be able to live with a couple hundred HP through the first one, but there is no living through the second one.
Yeah, the second one, he's dead.
And the rest of the heroes not faring much better in terms of, and yeah, the Witch Doctor who's sitting on about 70, but Outworld Devourer, before he steals any intelligence, just his base int level is already 190.
Oh, Pixie in trouble. This Witch Doctor was doing great, but canceled, or no, not canceled, but now it's canceled. A good Chronosphere. OG did die though. So Guppy completely unscathed right now, and Syntax will probably be dying soon as well.
Yep, and he's being chased down here. He does not have the Aegis.
From Biscore, making sure that a little greedy from Team Linkens, and an Ultra for Guppy, who's now going to finish a Butterfly and maybe a Satanic. It's really up to him.
Yeah,
both.
So that fight coming off the back of Darkseer, who had a great vacuum wall combination, created havoc. There was the Chronosphere coming out from the Faceless Void, but it did not catch Guppy on the Gyrocopter, who was able to stand on the outskirts, and he's not doing too shabby in terms of damage output himself, landing a big call down and then flak cannoning the entire Team Linkens squad down.
There's no buyback on Juggernaut or Outworld, and I think once Team Anarchy realize this, I don't know if they can get the GG push, but they'll definitely get at least one, maybe even 2 lanes of racks.
I think they're going to be hard-pressed to take 2 here. Best case scenario, they're going to be able to equal out just 1, because you can see MYJY already jumping forward here, committing an aggressive push out and creating space. They do lose the tier 3 tower there, but in the top lane, Guppy chasing down the Disruptor as the top tier 3 tower has fallen, and Chronosphere being committed on just the Gyrocopter, but as we mentioned before, Faceless Void does not have the damage to do much solo killing himself. But at this point, Pixie has respawned and he's back in the fight here.
No,
He
Pixie has
commits
betrayed.
Hex against Witch Doctor, and just a couple right clicks is going to bring him down. Not even worried about refreshing the ultimate here.
You know
So
what I would love to see a Blink Dagger from Pixie. I would love to see him grab a Blink.
Not in top condition.
do you get rid of
That would
the
be
Force Staff?
amazing. He can self-banish defensively. Yeah, get rid of the Force Staff, grab Blink, because you can banish defensively, then Blink right after. You can Blink banish this Invoker. There's a lot of different things you can do with the Blink. And at this stage of the game, the Force Staff not entirely necessary. Maybe, yeah, probably get rid of the Force Staff for the Blink. Or honestly, I would rather see the Blink than the Refresher Orb.
Yep, and at this point, TA having taken their first big team fight in a long time. You know, with Chronosphere coming out from Faceless Void, as Earthshaker questions the sanity of his teammate there.
To be fair, it is only a 1 minute cooldown, so not a huge loss. There's not a big window for TA to be like, Chrono's down, let's go. It's way harder to do that now that since he does have the Ags.
If you take a look at the net worth charts here, you can see after that big defense in the bottom lane, Team Anarchy were able to swing this gold chart back, not in their favor,
That was a
but
10k gold swing.
a 10k gold swing as Team Linkens were pushing into a 20k net worth advantage, and they've cut that down in half off the back of a big team fight and taken a couple additional towers here from Team Linkens. And what's dangerous about that is now if Team Linkens lose their next big team fight, they have two sets of racks that are completely exposed. Sure, Team Anarchy are already one set of racks down, but their other lanes are sitting on towers that are relatively healthy. This bottom one has taken quite a bit of damage, but it's still standing. Whereas Team Linkens, they've eaten some damage to both of their ranged barracks, the melee barracks in the top lane, but that'll ultimately heal itself up. But their protective towers are more or less gone. Their tier 3 tower in the bottom lane sitting just as weak as the bot lane tower on the Radiant side of the map. So they could very easily go from 3 lanes of racks to 0 if they lose this next big team fight. Roshan has respawned here, so I think that's something that both teams are going to try to investigate. And as I say that, Juggernaut runs his illusions into the pit, spots it out, and you can see the mass migration of Dire heroes into this bottom lane to get in position for Roshan.
This Ags is really questionable on the Juggernaut. I think an Abyssal Blade would serve them so much better, or an MKB against the Gyro.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a huge fan of Ags on Juggernaut. I understand that it does provide quite a bit of damage early on, but at this point in the game, I think you're 100% right. You get a lot more benefit out of either that Abyssal Blade, any sort of stun mechanic on the hero who already has a huge attack speed, complements the Manta and the Butterfly and the Eye of Scotty. So he's attacking quick, so he can make use of those bashes. Or, like you said, the MKB as kind of that counter pick item to cut through the Gyrocopter's evasion on the Butterfly, which right now, Gyrocopter is their biggest damage dealer. You have both of the Roche items still sitting there, and Pixie drops his boots, so now he's completely bootsless, but he is sitting on top of the cheese. And it's Faceless Void who picks up the Aegis of the Immortal, realizing that their Juggernaut's pretty much 6-slotted at this point. So Team Linkens hitting what is going to be close to peak power for them, as Juggernaut and
they need a win very soon.
And Pixie are more or less 6-slotted, unless they want to change out some stuff for just some marginal upgrades. Of course, both of these heroes could still benefit from Moon Shards if they want to pick those up and just eat those on the spot.
Yeah, just the basic
end game items, but Invoker still has space to grow. He can get rid of his Town Portal Scrolls, he can get rid of his Urn. Gyrocopter can get rid of his scrolls. So this is going to be a big team fight coming out here from both teams, as Team Anarchy tried to defend the high ground here, starting things off by throwing a meatball downhill, and Team Linkens just waiting patiently here for the right opportunity to strike. Meanwhile, in the top lane, you have Guppy, who's committed to push this top lane by himself, and he's going to start things off by taking the first set of racks.
Linkens need to go in now if they want to do something.
Dabble's being dropped using the Aegis, and that may be what he anticipated as he leaps forward and catches 3 heroes inside the Chronosphere. And here's the big Ags cleaving Juggernaut as he gets 2-3 heroes, multiple ults being committed by Outworld Devour. It looks like Hollowham is going to try to make it back into the fountain, while the rest of Team Linkens turn back around and focus on this barracks. Meanwhile, Guppy has taken the top and the middle set of racks, and he's teleporting back to base now to see if he can help his team defend. Meanwhile, Team Linkens are trying to hold strong here, but Guppy pops his BKB, drops the call down, and now he's on the chase. Pop a flak cannon. He's going to get the kill against Faceless Void and force out the remainder of Team Linkens. So they lose 1 racks, 1 bottom tower in exchange for 2 sets of racks being dropped on the dire side of the map, as Guppy was able to solo push down 2 lanes of racks himself, teleport back, and then mount a defense for the rest of his team. So I don't know, that the scorecard, or not the scorecard, the net worth chart is showing that it's kind of flatlined there at the 10k mark, but because of those exposed barracks that I had mentioned a few minutes ago, Team Anarchy are able to capitalize big and actually take the lead for the first time in this game in terms of barracks advantages.
And Jugs actually sold his Battle Fury, which is also a good choice. That item has really lost its usefulness at the 53-minute mark. And I still really think he should sell this Ags and go like an Abyssal Blade. I think the Abyssal would be so much more useful for his team.
I agree. I mean, we saw the Ags doing some work there against the support heroes on Team Anarchy, but really, that's not who you should be worried about as the hard carry on the side of Team Linkens. You want to be focusing down that Gyrocopter, who's the biggest threat of the game, and he's definitely acknowledged that by picking up that MKB, so he will be able to connect against this Gyrocopter. But Gyro's relatively tanky himself, sitting on 2,700 HP.
I think.
And of course,
Gyro
he has that Satanic.
Is building a rapier.
You think it's a rapier, or do you think it's an MKB?
I guess it could be Daedalus, but no, because he already. Oh, I guess it could be MKB. That's true. For some reason, I thought he had one. So it'll probably be MKB. It's not going to be rapier. Damn it.
Yeah.
That's way too throwy. They're not nearly ahead enough to get a rapier, and it's not so desperate they need a rapier either.
Yeah, you saw after that
way ahead or way
team fight.
Rapier.
Yeah, you saw that team fight go slightly in favor of Team Anarchy, even though Team Anarchy did lose a bottom barracks there. They were able to pick up 4 barracks of their own. So I think they're comfortable where they're at, and if they take one more team fight, it's going to be Mega Creeps, which is not the end of the game by any means for either team. Juggernaut may want to go back to his Battle Fury if they do get Mega Creeped.
Right.
But beyond that, both teams have the capability in the form of either the Juggernaut or the Gyrocopter of keeping those creeps at bay for a long time, forcing at least one more big team fight to recover and come back. The net worth chart starting to head more and more in favor of Team Anarchy, as they're able to drop the net worth lead to about 7k.
It's gonna be. So if Team Linkens lose a fight like over here, like on this side of the map, it's not that bad. And the same can be said if Anarchy lose a fight here. It's if they lose a fight on their own half of the map. If that happens, they probably will lose the game. OD has no buyback, but on the same, Juggernaut has his buyback, but OD without buyback is gonna be really rough. Did he drop the cheese? Did he get rid of cheese? I guess he did. The OD, now he has travels, so doesn't want to get kited.
He may have used it in the enemy base. I'm not sure. I didn't see where the cheese went. But more importantly, because
looking at him, he did not use it, but
he did not. Okay. Team Linkens, you can see just the positioning on the map now. Because they're missing 2 racks, all 5 of Team Linken's heroes are pretty much base committed at this point, where Team Anarchy have been able to spread out. You saw them farming the Ancients, you saw them farming the top neutrals, the bottom lane, the mid lane, and even their jungle here. So they're able to split up and collectively get a little bit more farm. And that's what's driving that net worth chart more and more in favor of the Radiant team, as they're able to split up.
There's
and
a lot more map open for Anarchy.
Yep. And Team Linken's looking to capitalize on maybe some over-aggression from Team Anarchy. Smoke up, and they may have been expecting a big push coming out from Team Anarchy, but right now Team Anarchy have just kind of split up, and they're going to look to farm up individually. There's pings out as Invoker is spotted out. He throws out Deafening Blast and then invises himself to safety. And now the mass teleport's coming out from Team Linkens, as this gank is going to be unsuccessful, and they're forced to get back to base to protect what few racks they have left. So quickly retreating back.
I'm surprised Linkens does not have a gem right now. Oh, yes, they do. Never mind.
Yeah, they do on the Disruptor.
They have the gem on Disruptor. Yeah.
Yep, but the rest of the heroes on Team Anarchy farming up the Radiant jungle, farming up their own jungle, splitting up and maximizing their economy here at the hour mark. Both Game 1 and Game 2 breaching 50 minutes. Yeah, just...
And XP lead is completely even, but that's just because heroes are approaching level 25.
Yep. You can see across the board Faceless Void, Disruptor, and Earthshaker, so some of the supports and utility heroes. On the Dire side, not quite level 25 yet, and on the flip side, you have that Witch Doctor, Vengeful Spirit, and shockingly, even the Invoker, who have not hit level 25 yet. Pixie sitting at 25 and 7.
OD, I think just misitemization. Yeah, Pixie is super big, but I think the Refresher was the wrong choice. Actually, okay, if he's refreshing just for the double ult, it was the wrong choice. Refreshing to get double BKB duration is good, so he's gonna have to do that.
Yep, and you can see him pop BKB, Scythe of Vice, Shiva's Guard in the opening, drop his ult, refresh it all, do it all again, and he's going to be able to sustain pushes for quite a while.
That's how he has to play it. He can't just refresh to do the double hammer. He has to refresh his BKB and his Scythe. Those two more than anything. The Shivas would be very good to refresh too, though.
Yep, not team, but Guppy on the gyrocopter has finished his MKB. And he's looking to keep this bottom creep wave pushed onto the Dire side of the map. Sunstrike being thrown into the Roche pit, trying to keep an eye on whenever that Roche respawns. Both teams spotting one another out here in the middle lane, but neither team really looking to take a fight at this point. Team Linkens know if they take one and lose, that's going to be the game for them. And Team Anarchy know at this point they're so spread out that they would be in a numbers disadvantage if they did try to take a fight now. But because of that constant creep pressure,
Team's waiting for Roshan.
Yep, Team Linken's forced to have 4 heroes in the top lane just to defend against the creeps. Sunstrike is going to spot out Roshan, who has respawned. It's going to be yet another Aegis and Cheese, and both teams sprinting in to do it. Team Anarchy being the first to arrive, Alacrity being thrown onto the gyrocopter, but they're going to eat a Fisher from MYJY on the high ground. And now they know it's a bit of a stalemate here. This Tiny Ant King with an invisibility rune is unfortunately going to get spotted out by Disruptor's gem, and he eats just a couple right clicks from Pixie, and Team Anarchy are forced to retreat back, so they may look to just yield this Roshan to Team Linkens, as Witch Doctor unfortunately thought he was safe with that invisibility rune.
This Aegis could be what they need. I mean, who picks it up though? In a good 3-man tornado, they might be able to get something, but no blinks or anything like that. Not quite enough range. Glimpse back on the Invoker. Disruptor has no Ags, but oh, this could be bad. Viscor in trouble. Going to go down even. He has buyback, but being forced to use it is not really the position he wants to be in. But
meanwhile, in this bottom lane, Guppy has rotated in, and he's attacking the towers, not the towers, but the barracks here, as he fights through multiple rotations from Team Linkens, and they're still on the chase here as MYJY blinks forward, commits an Echo Slam as well as a Fissure, and here comes the Juggernaut diving onto Guppy, who's popped his Satanic. He's trying to stand strong, but he ultimately falls, and that's a killing spree going to the Juggernaut. And now it's 2 cores from Team Anarchy who have fallen. So now is Team Linken's opportunity. They've been able to secure the Roche off the back of a Witch Doctor pickoff. Now they've dropped 2 big cores in the form of Invoker and Gyrocopter, and they're looking to push here. They've had to send Earthshaker back to base to defend their tier 4 towers, one of which has already fallen, but the true damage of the pack here and the disable from the Faceless Void are all in position. Chronosphere is ready to go. Outworld Devourer has both of his ults ready. Juggernaut will be ready to go here in just 10-15 seconds. And so it's up to the supports here to try to mount some sort of defense. They're going to have to just let this ranged barracks go. It does. And now we'll see what Team Linkens choose to do. And it looks like they're heading just for the tier 4s. And they're going to make this straight push to win here, chopping through the tier 4 towers. I do not believe that Gyrocopter has buyback. Dabble's jumping forward, Chronosphering Vixor, who had just bought back into the game. He is going to fall, but it's just his first death. He does have the Aegis, so he's going to come back. Pixie rotating in, popping his BKB, popping his Shivas, popping his Refresher, right-clicking down the Invoker. So Invoker is going to have to immediately buy back. Darkseer buys back. They finish off the Witch Doctor, who buys back. Everyone pouring everything they have into this final push. Gyrocopter has now respawned, and so now Team Linkens are in an all-out push to win here, trying to beat up the throne, but Guppy surges forward, drops the call down, drops the house, and now he's right-clicking like crazy. Multiple kills going the way of Gyrocopter as he kills 4, all of whom buy back, and I think that was 7 buybacks across both teams. As
it was 7.
Team Linkens look to secure the game there by rushing towards the throne instead of heading for the top lane of Rax. Even Vengeful Spirit calling out and giving a tip of the hat to the buybacks.
It was 8 buybacks there. You had the Shaker, Jugs, Outworld, Faceless buyback, Invoker, Vengeful, Darkseer, and Witch Doctor. I think.
Yep. So, pretty much a team of buybacks.
Juggernaut and Disruptor. Or sorry, no, Disruptor and Gyrocopter, not Juggernaut.
And as you can see, Disruptor and Gyrocopter now have buybacks available to them. The rest of the game are all on 5 to 6 minute timers. So this next team fight's going to have to be it. It's going to have to be the deciding factor.
For either team.
For either team. Guppy popping an invisibility rune, walking uphill. And Disruptor does still have his gem.
Them from activating BKBs.
So he's going to kind of just be lurking in the shadows here, and he's in great position here as the rest of his team pushes into the high ground, and Guppy's going to attack from the flanks here. Disruptor now getting in position to be able to see him, but Guppy popping his BKB into the call down, attacking from the sides of the team here, while the rest of his team walk through the front door and try to crush these barracks. And they're able to get it, Merely Mortal being the beneficiary of a big Echo Slam, and they're able to secure Mega Creeps here as they finish off the last remaining barracks. But now in the entirety of Team Anarchy's lineup are dead, minus the Gyrocopter, for a full 100 seconds pretty much across the board. And so Team Linkens looking to make this the last push of the game.
And Gyro has no BKB.
Gyro will not have
And OD
BKB
does
for
not give a
15
crap about these
seconds.
Mega creeps.
So Disruptor hanging back, preemptively popping his Guardian Greaves, knowing he's going to have to defend his tier 4 tower while the rest of his team pushes forward. MYJY preparing himself with Enchant Totem there as him, Pixie, and Syntax all push up the middle lane, and I think they're just going to try to zone out this Gyrocopter as they focus down the throne. BKB being used on Guppy as he right-clicks down Earthshaker and then turns his focus to the OG, but Syntax turning his focus away from the throne onto the Gyrocopter, and there's the big double Sanity's Eclipse coming out from OD, and GG is eventually called here by TA. Amazing performance by both teams here, especially in Game 2, as this game goes the distance, running 67 minutes, and Team Linkens able to secure Game 2, making this a 1-for-1 exchange as the team battle it out in this best of 2 series in the AD2L Season 10 entry-level bracket. Amazing games by both teams. Anytime you have a game going 50-plus minutes, you know it's because the teams are pretty equally skilled. And you definitely saw that here in Game 2 as the fights went back and forth. The net worth charts pretty much didn't matter. You saw Team Linkens get a 20k gold advantage, but it didn't stop Team Anarchy from fighting a very smart fight, putting up a great defense in the bottom lane when Team Linkens tried to take their second set of racks. Off the back of that, they were able to secure 2 barracks with the Gyrocopter teleporting to the top lane, clearing out the top lane of racks, moving to the middle, clearing that out, and from there they had a creep wave advantage for quite a bit of the game. But ultimately, it was Team Linkens who were able to mount some successful pushes at the end there. Both teams committing buyback after buyback, pretty much the entire team buying back by the end of the game. And although Team Anarchy were able to secure mega creeps for themselves, they just didn't have any heroes on the map when Team Linkens came knocking on the throne's door. Any final thoughts?
It was a great game, and this game was really good, really intense, and very close, but it just felt like the cores on Team Linkens played better and definitely got better farm. I mean, the Invoker kind of felt like he fell off as the game developed, whereas the Jugs and the OG just got better and better. And the same can be said for the supports. Vengeful Spirit kind of lost their impact, but Disruptor got more and more impactful, and MYJY finding tons of awesome Echo Slams and really good Fissure Blocks to secure kills for his team. So just a really good game from both teams, but just Team Linkens slightly outplaying Team Anarchy in the very end. So they do secure this game, the series 1-1, and really, really excited that I got to see this game.
Yep, so for all of you tuning in, thank you very much. We always appreciate the viewers. My name is Darmin, coming to you live both in-game and on twitch.tv/DarminCast. If you liked the stream today, please hit that follow button. Check out my YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. I'll be posting tonight's video on demands, as well as all of the games I cast up to my YouTube page. I am being joined today by the infamous Nefarious. Catch him out over on twitch.tv/Nefarious. I hope to have you on again for future cast, man. It's been a pleasure. And
this was a pleasure.
Yeah. And I guess until next time out there, everyone.
That's all there is to say, I guess.
Good fun. Have luck.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Peace.
See you around.